What is marketing and brand operations? When you think of marketing and brand operations, or MBO, you may first zero in on the brand operations, which encompasses highly visible touchpoints like branded assets, vendors, and tools. But brand operations is just one component of your marketing operations, a larger entity which looks at your workflows, agency relationships, and other less visible aspects of your team's day-to-day work. MBO brings together everything under the hood of your marketing function that enables your team's success, including hidden cost savings and opportunities for improvement. From staffing the right people, to instituting the right processes, to leveraging the right technologies, marketing and brand operations addresses the infrastructure and strategic management of a marketing function. Picture it like a control room for your team, where you manage all moving parts of your function to meet stakeholder demands and ultimately connect your strategy to action. By maximizing your MBO, you can realize cost savings and improve marketing ROI while meeting and exceeding the goals and demands of your organization. Welcome to the Eyes on Brand Impact webinar series.
Who doesn't love a good AI-generated video? Hi, everyone. I'm Philip Giuliano. I'm a partner and owner here at BrandActive. I've basically spent the last 20 years of my life working with companies of all sizes, actually, in all spaces, but over 150 or so hospital and health system to help them save a lot of money, improve efficiency, simplify operations, and improve quality, consistency, and ROI. Before that, I was doing mergers and acquisitions consulting and a little time at a branding agency as well. But Paige?
Hi, I'm Paige Riley, and I lead the marketing and brand operations practice at BrandActive. I have over 20 years experience in branding and marketing on the agency side as well as on the client side. And I specialize in marketing operations, which is with dozens of clients, which is really helping them to achieve kind of their desired state of where they want their marketing function to be.
And I'm Katie Gordon. I lead our healthcare practice at BrandActive, working with many different types of healthcare organizations, and understand it has been a challenging few years as changes to healthcare landscape have impacted how healthcare marketers do their jobs. And given this shift, there are opportunities within marketing and brand operations to address some of these challenges, which we're here to chat about today.
And this is really an introduction to the concepts of marketing and brand operations, with some real tangible ways about how you can tackle this stuff. It's basically a masterclass format, right? And this is 101 plus a little bit of 201, right? And so by all means, treat this as interactive. Post questions in the chat, and we'll be sure to leave time at the end to get to them. But yeah, we really want to make sure we cover what you want to get out of this as well, not just the format that we put together. So let's go a little bit into the healthcare space now.
The healthcare industry faces a variety of external challenges, but the one thing you can control in the face of these challenges are your internal operations, your people, your processes, and your technology. Here are a few ways to maximize your marketing function's efficiency by applying rigor to your operations. It's no secret that the healthcare industry is always evolving, which has led to siloed and decentralized marketing functions in some organizations. One way to address this is by centralizing your marketing department and standardizing the processes to support a centralized team, which can then set your team up to respond with more agility to changes like a merger or acquisition, broadening your organization's scope. The patient as consumer trend is only predicted to increase, and the reactive nature of healthcare can make it difficult to keep marketing strategies current. For example, standardizing your sources of data is just one way your team can create personalized marketing experiences through a more streamlined approach. Even more opportunities to maximize your operational efficiency exist within the industry's challenges, including auditing your asset inventory, innovating to meet stricter regulatory rules, assessing the changing patient landscape, and updating and incorporating new technologies into your practice. By seizing these opportunities, healthcare marketers can transform challenges into opportunities in 2024 to maximize cost savings, time savings, and impact your bottom line through improved marketing effectiveness and efficiency.
Awesome. So as the video said, as Katie alluded to, right? I mean, consumerization on the rise, right? Most of the clients we're working with are moving into a significantly more centralized model from a traditionally decentralized model, which raises a lot of interesting challenges in the way that they operate, the kind of talent that they're attracting, things like that. Having the pressure to drive more actual revenue as a marketing organization instead of being responsive and having to do so for less than you previously had available to you, growth through acquisition, right? And marketing really needing to play a bigger and better role in those things because they are so costly and they're also so critical in how the organization moves and executes its strategic plan. So Paige, I'll let you jump in and talk about these.
Sure. Before I get into the tips that we're going to share with you today, I really believe that marketing and brand operations connects the strategy to action and really helps the marketing function deliver on all their business objectives as well as the objectives of their stakeholders. So it's really important that you kind of take a look at your marketing operations function to make sure that it is in the most efficient way it can be to maximize kind of all of your resources. So we're going to give you some tips that you can do on your own right away to help you and your organization get started on your journey to maximizing your marketing function. So the first tip is surveying your colleagues. This is an easy thing to do, and it's really important to understand the environment that you're working in, what people are working on, who they're working with, where are the pain points and challenges, and where are the opportunities to go in and create these efficiencies that we're talking about.
Exactly, Paige. I completely agree. And surveys are a really good starting point. We know, as Flip said, healthcare systems are often decentralized and budgets are tight. You're often having to defend those budgets, and most organizations just need to get going. And a survey is a low-cost way to get an idea of what you're working with to uncover those opportunities for improvement, and then begin to allocate your resources and times to address those areas.
Thanks, Katie. Our second tip is to kind of look at your stakeholders and your processes. Now look at who's on the marketing team. What are their roles and responsibilities? How do they interact with each other? Likewise, look at your agency partners and your vendors, and how does the marketing function interact with those people? And to really understand for your stakeholders, do they know how to interact with you? Do they know who to go to for what? Is it clear how to get things done? What do the processes look like? Are they convoluted? Are there too many? Does it take a long time to get everything done and everything to market? So it's really important to understand kind of who's who on the team and how you're getting things done.
Exactly. And another example that comes to mind is with defining your processes. That gives structure and support needed as a healthcare marketer, especially when it comes to dealing with sometimes challenging stakeholders. I know you mentioned a few, but thinking of another fun one is Doctor Right Away, who wants something done like yesterday and thinks it can be done in a minute. Having a process mapped out for how much time it takes to, say, launch a new campaign, who needs to approve it, to help set realistic expectations. So you're setting your team up for success to have ample time to do good work, but you're also helping to reduce that stakeholder friction.
That's great. Thanks, Katie. Our third tip that we think you can do on your own right away is to take stock of your technology. How many platforms are you working with? What are the tools that the team are using to get their job done? Are there redundancies? Is anything missing? And most importantly, do you have the right tools and technology to deliver on the objectives of your business?
Yes, and because of the decentralization, with maybe multiple teams across the organization are using different technology platforms and tools, we see the fragmented data come into play. You're not having your systems talk in a way that could allow you to leverage the integrated data for a better marketing experience for your consumers. So it's key to assess your tech stack and make sure that you're setting yourself up for success to leverage that.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, we see that a lot, that with the move from being decentralized to centralized, there's always almost too many tools, too many technology platforms, and they're not speaking to each other, or they're outdated. They're not doing the job that you need them to do. So taking it, doing an audit of your technology is easy for you to do, and it's super important.
Yeah, and it also helps you by having those systems and tools talking. It allows you to achieve a more consistent branding and cohesive brand experience for your consumers as well.
Exactly. Thanks. Our last tip for today, little tip, is to look at the inventory of your branded assets. And by that we mean, what are the logos and the colors and the templates and all the places where your brand is living. How many assets do you have? Are they the right assets now? Could you reduce them? How are people accessing things? How are your agency partners and your vendors working with your branded assets? It's not, most marketing organizations don't really kind of pause and kind of take stock of all the things that they have. And if you kind of do an inventory, you'll be able to see, like, what do you have? Do you have too many? And, most importantly, what's missing?
Right, exactly. And then if you think of healthcare systems with all of the branded assets, from signage, marketing collateral, badges, with that audit, you can begin to understand all of those assets you just shared that exist in the world today across all of your organizations. Maybe it's across state lines, different areas of the state, and maybe things are varying from facility to facility, or maybe a specialty is creating their own rogue marketing collateral. It allows you to get a lens into what's going on in your organization with your brand from that perspective too.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll probably just tie all this together with a couple of examples. I mean, sure, big opportunities like rebrands or brand architecture consolidation or mergers or acquisitions, things like that. They offer opportunities to look at all of this stuff, all at once, because you're going to be touching all of this stuff anyway. So that's great, right? But you don't need to go that way, right? There's a lot of ways in which you can actually apply this stuff to the things that you do every day. And there's so much low-hanging fruit here, and you don't need to tackle it all at once, right? And we'll talk about a way in which you can actually start to assess and prioritize what you might actually go after, and even create a strategic plan over multiple years about how you can achieve that end state that Paige was talking about. But I mean, simple things like the asset rationalization that Paige mentioned. There's client that we've worked with where they had 5,000 pieces of collateral across the health system that could all be rationalized into 500 templates, right? Which only reduces the amount of resource you need to be able to do this stuff. And when you add technology automation into that as well for collaboration, for material creation, it builds an amazing business case and use case around that stuff. Documents and forms, 2,000 down to 1,000. We've been in a health system where they had this one single hospital with clinics. They had 40 uniform vendors, right? And really thinking about rationalizing that down to one, right? The clarifying roles and responsibilities element is such a key piece within health systems, particularly when you've got multiple marketing organizations, either regionally or by hospital or things of that nature. Just simplifying that stuff and making them more standardized and repeatable, right, is a huge opportunity. Another thing I'm going to throw in there is the idea that you can operate today to set you up how you want to be operating tomorrow. And this kind of gets into the asset piece, number 4 here, right, where you don't have to go through a rebranding to change patient experience, right? And you could actually set up I'm just going to use signage because it's such a tangible example for everyone. You can set up the signage and wayfinding standards and guidelines that you want to implement across all of your facilities. And just through the natural course of operation within a health system, right, over a 5-year, 7-year period, because of signage change out or new construction or closing of facilities, you can actually achieve the majority of your end state through operational cycle and then invest in the gap, right? And bring the rest of the organization along. So, and I'm just using signage as an example, but I mean, there's so many ways in which you can think about how would we like to be operating and what can we put in place today that through the normal course of business will get us there. Even if that gets us there in 5 years or 10 years, right? We're still getting there. So we're going to talk about 3 different ways in which to address some of the things that Paige was talking about. And the first is really an opportunity analysis, right? And this is the kind of thing that, I mean, just honestly, most healthcare organizations are so resource stretched that they do generally need to bring in, let's just call it outside counsel, whether it's BrandActive, whether it's a operational specialist or anything like that, right? Somebody needs to have the time to actually do this, but the outcome of this is so critically important, right? So if you look across the things that Paige was mentioning, right? People, processes, tools and documentation, right? Technology, the business strategy and the marketing strategy and the overall strategic plan of both marketing and the organization, right? You can start to identify the opportunities that exist within the organization. One client that we worked with had about 47 different opportunities that were put there, which can seem daunting and overwhelming, right? But it's not actually, right? Because what you can do is then prioritize those based off of the level of investment, based off of the level of return that you can get out of that. And you can generally model all of these with real tangible ROI. This isn't more of an esoteric brand valuation or more of a, brand equity kind of ROI. This is a tangible, this is what we're spending today. This is what we could spend tomorrow, right? And really build a business case around that. Same applies for technology, right? So that opportunity analysis can really help you build that strategic plan across things to say, these are the 5 we're going to tackle this year. These are the 7 we're going to tackle the year after that. And somehow in the next 5 to 7 years, 10 years, we're going to tackle all of these. And something's going to shift in the organization, but it's got to be all based off of that ROI. So the next piece is really around the marketing and brand governance structure and processes, right? And this isn't brand governance around, messaging and things of that nature, right? This is really tactical, right? Operational brand governance. What do we want to centralize and what do we want to decentralize? And how do we empower people that are decentralized to do things the right way the first time, cost effectively and efficiently, right? So that involves setting up, a brand governance org model. It involves setting up a support structure. It involves clarifying roles and responsibilities, creating workflows, right? Things of that nature. So building brand champions and an educational program around that. All of these things just play into that. Yeah, I'm actually going to stop there and move on to the next one.
Can I just add something, Philip?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Yeah. So as far in brand governance is becoming increasingly important, and we're hearing we have a lot of clients actually coming to us to say, well, we need help with our brand governance, and sometimes it can mean different things to different organizations.
Yeah.
The lens that we look at governance through is how do we maintain the integrity of your brand, and how does the marketing team do their jobs in the most efficient way? And by, like Philip said, by setting up processes and looking at the tools that you use and how you're communicating to all your stakeholders, it's really important that you understand that the life cycle of where your brand's going to live, and you want to make sure that when it goes out to the world, it's on brand, that the messaging is right, and that everything's consistent. Especially if you're going through a rebrand. You spent a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of resources coming up with this new brand, and you want it to go out into the world in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this one has a lot inside of it, right, that you can do. And again, there are clients that literally just want to tackle their standard operating procedure for how they work with agencies, right? And we see this a lot in healthcare where you may have 6, 7, 12, 15 agencies, and they're all telling you how to work with them, right? As opposed to you having a standardized data model, asset model, process model, collaboration, quality check model, et cetera, right, around how they should be operating with you, right? And you tell them how to do everything that they do. And you centralize that data, right? And you centralize those assets and those analytics, right? And you own it all, as opposed to them owning all of those source files and creative and data and analytics in their own systems, right? Owning that data becomes really critically important to actually then do analytics and create improvements. I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that page, but.
No, I would just say when we're talking about the data and analytics, one of the areas that we touched upon earlier was around technology, right? And we're speaking to our clients a lot about what is the right technology that your marketing team should be leaning on and using. So you're not just using technology for storing your assets and files, but there are options out there where you can get the data and the analytics. I don't think we're going to go into that in much detail today, but that's a really important part of it.
Yeah, no, I think this is probably the most overlooked one of all of these. I think that anyone that is a professional marketer is probably looking at process and people, right, and structure, and at least has an idea of where they could improve these things, right? The agency vendor asset management aspect of things is generally an overlooked area because a lot of other people own this, right? Facilities own signage, right? And supply chain, or even just the floors themselves, right, might own uniforms and workwear, right? Security owns badges and potentially even fleet, right? So there's so many different areas across the organization that need to be engaged, but there's so much opportunity to be the one to lead and drive, first of all, improve brand experience, of course, right? And second of all, to also be the one to identify the inefficiencies and efficiencies that can be gained within that and potentially reclaim some of that money back to marketing, right? Which we've had a lot of clients be able to do, right? So just thinking about agency and vendor management, I kind of touched on a lot of these as I was talking previously, but the agency, do we have the right agencies involved across the organization doing the right things for us that we really like them doing and that they're really strong at, right? This can be a great analysis for the organization, particularly when you've got local agencies doing, even just that aspect of things, right? Identifying what are local agencies even working on, right? And what are you spending on that? Because again, traditionally, you may not have transparency into that, right? We've had clients where we look downstream and the amount of localization that's being done on a centralized campaign is actually costing millions and millions of dollars. It's just doing it at $500 or $1,000 a pop. So each one of those things flies under the radar. And again, getting that perspective and bringing it back, right, can create a really great ROI model for technological investment, for collaboration, workflow, those kinds of things, right? Or again, to just redirect those dollars towards things that are actually driving more interesting things within the marketing department. Vendor rationalization is a huge opportunity. Again, whether it's signage, whether it's fleet, whether it's uniforms, badges, whether it's marketing collateral, we see way broader vendor sets than need to be involved at a marketing department. We also see asset variance. That's huge here, where you've got 200 different kinds of sign types across the organization, right? And each new building gets, an architect involved and a signage company involved, and they create 7 different new sign types, right? And so really thinking through and reducing the assets under management and the variance associated with that reduces the cost of those assets overall, but it also improves the overall quality and consistency and the patient experience associated with all of that. So I'll just kind of leave it with that. And then finally wrap up with, a technology point that I think a lot of our clients, they implement a brand management system. Awesome. Right? They implement a workflow or project management or campaign management system. Awesome. Right? What they generally don't do an incredibly great job of is really thinking through the business specifications, right? The ROI, what can the organization actually really digest from a systemization and adoption standpoint, right? And then select a solution based off of those business requirements, that ability to digest, right? And the technical requirements that you have to actually be able to segment and manage those assets, those workflows, those processes as an organization, right? And then providing the training involved to actually do that and phase it in a way that can actually improve the organization's ability to adopt more complex and more sophisticated aspects of that systemization. Again, whether it's, data and analytics, whether it's brand management systems, things of that nature. So I'm going to leave it there and just say, Paige, if you have anything in particular that you want to add to that thought, we are going to make sure we leave 15 minutes for Q&A here.
Yeah, I think I would just add that what I see a lot is clients thinking they need a DAM, like a digital asset management system, and the term brand management system may be used, but they're really thinking about a place to put the stuff and where people can go to get their branded assets. And today there are so many technology offers for marketing functions, kind of at large, where it needs to be more than a place you store your assets. You can use the technology for collaboration, for routing work, for reviews and approvals, for the data and the analytics. There's so many options. So I would just encourage you to think about what the business needs and then kind of find the right solution.
Yep, exactly. So I do want to open it up to the audience and say, please, by all means, throw some questions into the chat here if there are things that we haven't covered that you're interested in. If you want us to elaborate a little bit more on some of the things that we've covered. Again, really just thinking through, surveying your colleagues, right? Stakeholders and processes, the technology audit, and the asset inventory rationalization opportunity analysis, that kind of stuff is really great. So I'm going to just get my chat functioning here, but Katie and Paige, if you see questions in there that you want to address, by all means. Where do you typically get budgets for this?
That one,
that's a great one. Do you want to start off, Paige?
Yeah, I'm going to look at the small team question, which is the first question, which is all these things seem phenomenally important, but we're a small team, which is the most important to focus on. I would say if your team is small, you probably want to make sure that you are taking a look at what everybody's working on and you're prioritizing what you're working on. Like I said, you want to tie everything back to your business objectives. The marketing team shouldn't be producing any work that's not like on, strategically connected to the goals of the business. I've worked on the client side for a number of years and saw that it's very normal for marketing departments to produce year over year what they did the year before. I would recommend that you pause, and if you're in 2024 planning right now, take a hard look at what really needs to be done, so you're not overtasking the resources that you have in your small team. I also think that your agency partners and your vendor partners are important. Like, who can you lean on to support, getting the work done? And I think looking at like the assets and the templates and all of your branded assets would be important. Less is more in most situations. And to being able to prioritize and sunset some things that you don't need anymore is really important. So don't be afraid to do that. And I would add that with a small team, depending on like how broad your stakeholder audience is, you may not need to invest in a big brand management system. I mean, brand management systems do a lot, but if you're a small team and there's not a lot of interaction and routing, and you don't have a long inventory list of assets, you probably want to look at something slightly different.
Yeah, I'm just going to add to that and say that, really thinking and looking at where are people really spending their time, right? And how do we reduce the amount of time people are spending doing things that don't actually drive either, crisis response or revenue, right? Or the things that are really creating and producing results for your team. And in that sense, what could we standardize, make repeatable? What could we systemize? Could we do a better job, even just internally in our asset management, right? That kind of stuff. How do we reduce the volume of things that we have under our control? So just sort of reiterating some of Paige's points on that. I do want to touch on where do clients typically get budgets for this, because that's a fun one. So the real answer to this is, particularly as a marketing department, particularly in a health system, right, where like operations is very easy to get a lot of budget for, right? Technological investment, right? Hiring the right people, right? These are all things that healthcare organizations will spend a lot of money on. Marketing operations is not one of those things that people typically look at and say, oh, there's a lot of money in here, right? So you may have to build a business case around that. Right. And, a lot of our clients ask us to build out that business case and say, look, we know that we need to invest, a little bit of money to identify a lot of money. Right. And if we identify a lot of money, then we might be able to pick off this one and that one and that one and work our way down through those opportunities. So that's where that opportunity analysis and ROI model becomes really, really critical. And then you can get a chief operating officer or a CFO or somebody like that on board with what you've already identified as operational opportunities for efficiency. Now, the challenge in that is to present that in a way that also redirects money towards strategic objectives that the marketing department has, as opposed to, I'm really glad you found $1 million of efficiency. We're going to cut your budget by $1 million, right? So you also have to have a strategic plan of what you want to reinvest those savings in, right, in order to be able to make sure you're not poaching from yourself.
Right. I would add to that, in some cases, I've seen that because we're talking about operations, marketing operations, if you're talking about, if you're getting budget for technology, you may be able to partner with your IT department or your finance department for budget, since it's really serving the whole organization, not just, the marketing team. You can be creative and think like, where is there overlap with marketing and other departments?
Yep, exactly. I do see a question on what tools do you use for asset management? And it's an interesting question. And I would sort of call back to it depends on what you're trying to achieve and who you are, right? So to Paige's point, if you're a small health system with a small team, I would not recommend, an on-site installation of a complex asset management system and workflow management system, right? I would look at more of the SaaS-based models, right, that exist out there that are seat license-based, user-based, right, and can be very cost-effective and still very, very customizable for the things that you do, and can still provide online asset creation and customization, can still provide workflow management, other kinds of things like that. And then if you're a more complex organization, right, then the opportunities exist for more of that. Okay, we're going to create templates in a system and we're going to customize those templates, right? We're going to allow people to, shift colors or file formats of things that they can actually actively download. We're going to have, online collaboration with our agency partners where we're actually going through campaign workflows and marking up online and passing those things. So we have no email traffic back and forth or file storage back and forth and identifying the latest version. We've got version control, right? We've got, campaign management and analytics and data integration into that, right? These are all things that if you're the kind of organization that has a business case to support and will actually use and digest that functionality, then that's awesome functionality that can really only be gained in more of the, you can do it through some of the more elaborate SaaS models, right? But it's going to be more through the customization, right? In order to build that system out in a way that's going to work for you. Always recommend off the shelf, right? I'm just going to be straightforward. I do not recommend buying a brand management system from any agency out there that might sell it to you, right? There are companies out there that do brand management systems every day, all day, and asset management systems. That is their business. That is their job. Go buy one of those. Right. It's just going to get you a better solution, especially if you build out the business requirements and tech specs before you do it, to select the right one.
And do not build your own.
I do not build your own.
It doesn't work.
Now, again, for a small organization that doesn't have the budget, right, can SharePoint be customized in a way that can actually make that work? Totally.
Yeah.
It really can. So, yeah.
I think we have time for one more quick question if we want to.
Anything jumping out of you, Katie?
A meeting one. What kind of signs should we look for that demonstrate we don't need a certain agency or vendor anymore?
Paige, you want to jump in on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first, I'd say you should be doing an agency review annually to make sure that your agency is still the right partner for you. I mean, as your business changes, your partners might need to change. For example, way back when we used to do a lot of print, right, advertising, and we moved into the digital space. So a lot of companies and marketing departments had to, look at the partners and their agencies and do they have the digital capability that we need to deliver, on our marketing plan? So you really should be thinking about what you need to deliver, on your goals, and look at the agency partners that you have and assess their skill set, their people, what they're good at, and the quality of the work. Budgets always are, obviously, if you can save money on agency budgets, you can put that back into somewhere else. But my recommendation would be to do an agency review, maybe not every year, but every couple of years, to make sure that the agency you're working with is still right for your business. And I think a sign to look for would be if, if the work isn't hitting the mark from a strategic perspective, then that would be a big sign that you need to start, looking at who you're working with.
Yeah. And
Sorry.
go ahead, Katie. Go. Yep.
No, I was just going to say that's a good point in regards to how things are shifting. Do you have a social media agency managing things? Could you use that? And maybe you didn't have that 10 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever. So assessing your strategy and where you're going, and like you said, making sure you have those partners who can help you succeed.
Yeah. And I just want to get to Anne's question real quick. From a culture, before we wrap this up, from a cultural perspective, what are some of the key roadblocks you have seen with the adoption of a true marketing operations function? Paige.
Well, first I want to say that there's another question in here around trends. And one of the trends that we've been seeing is that companies they now have marketing operation functions.
Yeah.
And many of my clients' titles are, VP marketing operations, director marketing operations. That didn't exist a few years ago, right? So I think that that alone is indicating that marketing operations is important, right? I think from a culture perspective, I think that the marketing operations team needs to be visible. I think most of the time operations are not visible. They're behind the scenes. So people aren't really taking notice. They really don't know what's going on and why the operations are so important. I think that the operations function needs to make themselves visible. I think they need to do lots of training. I think they need to be the ones who are involved in the governance process. And I think they need to and especially to leadership, the operations department wants to constantly be demonstrating why creating these efficiencies is going to maximize ROI.
I've got another one to add in there, especially for hospitals.
Okay.
Okay. Understanding, right, is probably the biggest roadblock that we see. And understanding, first of all, that marketing operations is a function, right, that exists in this world. And it is, I think last year in the marketing world, marketing operations was one of the top trending hired positions, right? So understanding that this is a trend, but also understanding the amount of opportunity that exists, right, within this function, right? If you have somebody really standardizing and making this stuff repeatable. I talked a little bit about M&A, right? Do you have an M&A playbook for how marketing interacts with M&A at each stage of the deal and what the deliverables and outcomes should be through every stage of that process? The answer for most health systems is no, right? They have an M&A playbook, right, for how they're going to integrate things, but not from a marketer's perspective, right? So again, just like building in the understanding of what this function can do and what this function can generate for the organization is number one. Then you can actually define, okay, so what opportunity does actually exist here for us to really improve our operations, right? But just adding a little bit to you, Paige.
Yeah, I think actually, so the question is like, what are the roadblocks? And I think a big roadblock is change. People are resistant to change, right? So I think you need to bring teams along with you and like demonstrate the importance. Ultimately, the operations function is there to make things easier, right? More efficient, make getting your jobs done that much easier, with the right tools and processes in place.
Yeah.
From a culture perspective, it should make where you work a much better place to work. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And I think we're going to wrap it up there and just say, first of all, thank you for everyone for joining. If you've got questions, by all means, send them to Katie. She leads our healthcare practice. This has been a lot of fun for us. I hope it's been informative for you. And We are going to have more webinars on this series. We're going to have more webinars on this topic, even to go deeper into some of these opportunities. So definitely stay tuned for more on Eyes on Brand Impact webinar series. And thank you, Katie. Thank you, Paige. Thank you to everybody in the audience. And I hope everyone has a great day today. We'll speak again soon.
You.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.